Welcome to this explainer. All right, let's just jump right into it. I want to drop you directly into the high-stakes, literal life-or-death tension of the year 1831. I mean, imagine a world where the map just ends in blank spaces, and a young British officer's seemingly innocent commercial trade mission, it's actually a highly dangerous, deeply covert intelligence operation. Today, we are exploring the totally thrilling first-hand account of Alexander Burns from his legendary records in Travels into Bukhara.
Think about that for a second, right? What if your day job wasn't just to sell goods, but to map the unknown for your government? I want you to put yourself in the shoes of 26-year-old Alexander Burns. You're stepping into completely unmapped, totally forbidden territories in Central Asia. Now, the official line is that you're just out there looking for trade routes. But the reality? The reality is that a single misstep, just a slightly wrong word to a local chieftain, could literally mean a knife in the dark.
Okay, let's dive right into Section 1. The Great Game begins.
So Burns was essentially walking right into a massive collision course between two of the most powerful empires of the 19th century. This was the Great Game, a decades-long shadow war of diplomacy and espionage. And in this conflict, knowing the terrain was absolutely everything. I mean, Burns actually notes in his records that a river, like the Sutlej, could suddenly just shift its course out of nowhere, vomiting up imprisoned streams and completely wiping out ancient villages. In this game, mapping a shifting river was literally just as vital to national security as moving an entire army.
He's gotten this terrifying geopolitical vice. On one side, you have his employers, the British East India Company, who firmly control the vast plains of India. And on the other side, the Russian Empire is relentlessly pushing south. Burns had to secretly map the land and assess the armies of these middle ground kingdoms before the Russian Tsar's forces could get there. It was a total race against the clock.
Which brings us to Section 2, Crossing the Frontier.
Picture this. It's the crisp winter of December 1831. Burns leaves the heavily guarded comforts of British territory and plunges headfirst into the absolute unknown. He really acts as our keen-eyed explorer here. The details he jots down are just fascinating. He's navigating this incredibly treacherous geography, where the Sutlej and Beas rivers literally wash away history. Actually, he spends days eagerly searching for these 12 colossal altars, supposedly left behind by Alexander the Great, only to find absolutely nothing. He also writes about this stunning landscape. Beautiful morning hoarfrost melting into a hard green sward. But, well, it wasn't exactly a peaceful nature walk. He's also having to dodge these fanatic religious outlaws called akalis, who are out there actively setting entire villages on fire.
Now, to get through all these dangerous lands alive, Burns obviously couldn't just use force. So what does he do? He relies on what he called Oriental hyperbole. It's basically weaponized flattery. He uses this completely over-the-top, sycophantic praise in his letters to the unpredictable ruler of the Punjab just to secure safe passage without looking like a threat.
Let's move on to Section 3, the Lion of Lahore. After somehow surviving the frontier outlaws and the crazy shifting landscape, Burns finally arrives to meet his most critical target and potential ally, Maharaja Ranjeet Singh. This guy was famously known as the formidable one-eyed lion of the north. 1,100. To put that into perspective, that represents the staggering purse of 1,100 rupees sent by the Maharaja to Burns as a mandatory welcome gift. This was a massive, undeniable display of wealth and power, and Burns knew he simply couldn't refuse it. Turning down that kind of cash would cause grave offense to the exact guy holding Burns' life in his hands.
Right off the bat, the contrast Burns experiences is just wild. One minute, he's being greeted with this elegant, European-style welcome by a French mercenary driving a mule carriage. The next, bam. He's jolted awake at midnight by a terrifying earthquake shaking his solid brick house in near-freezing 37-degree weather. And then, right after that, he's dragged in and subjected to the Maharaja's brilliant, rapid-fire tactical interrogations. The ruler is grilling him about British military pay and exactly how to properly fuse brass artillery shells. It's this insane mix of elegance, terror, and pure military espionage.
All right, let's dive into Section 4, Spectacles, Sports, and Spring.
So here's Burns, right? A tough soldier used to roughing it in military camps. But when he joins the Maharaja's camp deep in the jungle to establish his deep cover, this is what he finds. It's like something out of a fairy tale violently clashing with the gritty reality of the frontier.
He is literally sleeping in camp beds made with frames of solid gold, resting on golden footstools, and surrounded by walls made entirely of luxurious cashmere shawls. It is unimaginable, just absurd wealth sitting right in the middle of the wilderness.
But, it wasn't all just gold and cashmere. There was a seriously brutal edge to this court. Burns writes about witnessing a royal hog hunt that starts off looking incredibly majestic. Elephants bearing golden seats flushing the jungle, but it quickly descends into total chaos. Horsemen are slaying these animals with glittering swords, and then live hogs are brutally tied to stakes and baited with dogs. Finally, the infuriated boars are just released to tear through the crowded camp, while the whole assembled multitude laughs and cheers in absolute delight. The contrast with those golden beds is pretty staggering.
The visual spectacle absolutely peaks at the Spring Festival, which is known as Basut. Just imagine this kind of sensory overload for a second. The entire regular army of the empire, every single cavalryman, infantryman, and artilleryman, is mandated by the ruler's arbitrary will to wear vibrant yellow silk. The whole military parade takes 35 minutes just to march past them, culminating at this breathtaking golden royal canopy covered in pearls that's valued at a staggering 1 lakh of rupees. It's just a pure, raw display of unquestioned power.
And that leads us to our final section, Section 5, a royal farewell.
Eventually, Burns has to extract himself from this golden cage so he can actually continue his incredibly dangerous espionage mission further north into Afghanistan. His farewell from the Maharaja is this lavish, chaotic midnight feast that just perfectly sums up the duality of the Punjab we've been talking about. On one hand, you have the elegance. He's sitting in a superbly illuminated palace with mirrored walls and silver chairs. But on the other hand, you've got dancing girls literally tearing at each other, fighting over lost ear ornaments, while these incredibly rich game meats are being served simply in little cups made out of folded leaves.
18. Now that number is wild. It represents the incredible stamina of the Maharaja. It stands for the 18 measures of fiery Kabul grape spirit that Ranjeet Singh quaffed during this farewell feast. And by the way, this stuff was way stronger than brandy. He drinks heavily, shares stories of his old battle scars, and ultimately, which was the whole point, grants Burns the vital letters of protection he so desperately needs. And, despite all the danger, despite the heavy layers of espionage going on, there's this really genuine, almost touching human moment right at the end. This iron-willed genius, the guy who completely controlled Burns' fate, actually reaches down from his elephant, gives him a hearty handshake, and sincerely asks this young British spy to never forget him, no matter where in the world he ends up.
So Alexander Burns finally secures his passage. But guys, his real journey was literally just starting. As he marched away from those pearl-covered canopies and the solid gold beds of Lahore, armed with nothing but a spyglass and his own calm nerve, what kind of harrowing life-or-death challenges do you think awaited this 26-year-old spy as he stepped into the lawless, warring fiefdoms of Afghanistan? It's a huge question, and one that would very soon be answered in the bloody chapters of the Great Game. Thanks so much for hanging out with me on this explainer. I hope this helped you visualize the incredible, wild stakes of 1831.